I'm pretty much in favor of Maglev because of the better system.
Councilman's talking about a vote. I think the mayor and the council have to both get on board. The mayor maybe has to stop drinking the Kool-Aid that he's been fed from Department of Transportation Services and take a good hard look at this thing. And then the council, without the mayor and the council, we can't do anything. I've spent a lot of time at that council testifying and a lot of time in meetings and scoping meetings and so forth. And if you can't get their cooperation, nothing's going to happen.
And I think it's great that the youth are involved because they're going to have to be paying for this long after we're gone. And I agree with what you say, born and raised here. I don't want the rail either, but I live in Makakilo and I was in the traffic with the gentleman this morning, and there has to be something that we can do. Why, sir, Tom, why are they pushing this steel on steel? Is it because they're getting paid by all the people who are going to build it? Is that what the thing is? Is it that simple?
Now the rail authority is reacting to a close city council vote that almost put the
we don't like to use the word corruption
a measure that would have let voters decide whether to abolish the rail authority received majority backing of the Honolulu City Council today, but not enough to advance. Gina Mangieri reports.
Joe, the council held first reading of a bill that would have asked city voters whether the rail project should be put back under the city transportation department oversight, cutting the costs of HART from the rail budget. Less than 2 years ago, voters approved putting the rail project under a semi-autonomous board, and the Honolulu Authority for Rapid Transportation was born.
We have seen members poll after poll. The majority has changed their mind.
That's why Councilmember Tom Berg says he introduced a measure to put rail back under the Department of Transportation Services.
So what are we afraid of? This resolution doesn't stop the rail.
The public testified both for and against, not just on HART, but on rail in general.
I want to protect my family from any more needless and reckless spending by our government on the pretext of doing what is best for us.
5 council members were in favor. 3 voted yes with reservations in the spirit of moving forward any idea beyond first reading. 4 were opposed, but the measure would have needed 6 votes, a supermajority, to continue on. Some see it as a signal rail in general has strong backing.
This was an affirmation of that, and I think it's a good signal to our funders, the federal government and the Congress and the Federal Transit Administration, as well as our state legislature, that we're moving in accordance with the plan.
Rail critics see it otherwise.
You know what? The public wants another stab at this. They want another say. They want another opportunity to be heard, and they're not getting heard.
You think, should Oahu residents get a chance to vote on whether to abolish the Honolulu Authority for Rapid Transportation? Log on to our website, khon2.com, to express your opinion.
I don't know if that looks familiar. That's the header for this brochure. And it was the top of an 8-page glossy brochure the city distributed throughout the island in mid-2008. Its goal was to convince everyone not that familiar with what was going on at Honolulu Hale that the term rail was the same as steel wheels on steel rails. It was a piece of propaganda aimed at voter support in November that year, and it successfully gained a 53-47% margin of victory. But are steel wheels the only rail? This information can be found in the Federal Transit Administration website glossary. On the slide, NTD stands for the National Transit Database. The point is that the city's effort in 2008 was deliberately deceptive and attempted to arbitrarily eliminate other technologies accepted by the FTA as rail. There are several forms of rail and the city knew it. However, I am not sure the voters were aware how they were being manipulated. In fact, some people locally believe that FTA will not support automated guideway or monorail systems, so let me disprove that.
So what happened was we as a citizenry said, do something.
I just wanted to say, because I didn't get to say it earlier, is that Florida is putting in a major maglev, urban maglev system for 1/10 the price of this rail, Honolulu could save a ton of money. They're building a fixed guideway. They haven't put any rail on it. You could convert that to a maglev system and save everybody a ton of money.
Okay, and your question was?
Why isn't HART saving Honolulu a ton of money by using 21st century technology versus 19th century steel on steel rail, which is going to drive the city bankrupt?
Well, do you have an answer, or would you rather come back next month and tell us all about it?
Well, thank you, Mr. Bond.
But that's a very good question.
Thank you, Mr. Bond. I should say Mr. Bond. Thank you, Mr. Bond, for that question. I did hear your comments earlier. Steel on steel, although that technology has been around for over 100 years, the technology for its internal workings have changed and modernized. It's like saying, the automobile was invented in something like 1879 or something like that, and that's old technology. We still drive modern cars, and they're always improving. The question about changing technology, just as a practical point, I think the rail project is pretty far down the decision-making path already. The core systems contract was approved some time ago to Ansaldo joint venture Honolulu for the operations, as well as the rail cars that would be a stainless steel technology. The other, I guess, legal question, and this is something for Corporation Counsel, I guess, to answer, is that the voters in 2008 changed the city charter and adopted a language that approved a steel wheel and steel rail system. And I don't know how you deal with changing something that's already in the charter. Do you have to go change a charter, or can the HART board unilaterally do that? I don't know. But those are. I appreciate your question, and I really don't know the answer to that, other than that there are things in place already.
Okay, that's food for another meeting altogether. Thank you very much for that.
Japan's new Maglev powertrain, the Series Low, will be capable of traveling up to 310 miles per hour. There are two types of notable Maglev technology: EDS used by the Japanese and EMS used by the Germans. The Japanese EDS system can also provide propulsion to move the train forward.
All of you know this is not some fanciful pie-in-the-sky vision of the future. It is now. It is happening right now. It's been happening for decades. The problem is it's been happening elsewhere, not here.
The train will soon arrive.
Stepping forward. Is there anyone else wishing to testify on Resolution 11-328? Seeing no one, members, we are in discussion. Councilmember Burr.
There was members a symposium in South Korea whereby right now there's 5 countries doing maglev, which is magnetic levitation. It's quiet. Urban maglev was not on the docket in the mix when the alternative analysis came about. Urban maglev, built by Americans, American technology. In this packet from the symposium in South Korea, you'll see there's federal monies. There'd be no delay, absolutely none. HART already has the authority to do maglev and monorail. Already has the authority. Federal dollars will still come in on time in September 2012. This doesn't delay anything. What this does is put on the footprint a smaller footprint, less of a blight. Lesser in weight, less concrete usage, smaller stations, smaller pillars, less intrusion on the EV. It's endless. This maglev makes no noise. And the steel wheel on steel rail is going to plow through Waipahu next to 2 schools, Waipahu Intermediate, Waipahu High School. They don't have air conditioning. My concern is it's a stone's throw away. We're going to keep dumping dollars to mitigate noise with steel on steel. Just Google steel on steel. No municipality in the United States has built heavy rail in the last 30 years in our country for a reason. It's archaic, obsolete technology that belongs in the Smithsonian. I got 4 more minutes, I believe. I think I have 5 minutes, right? Do I have 5 minutes on a subject matter to comment? Do I have 5?
If you need 5 minutes, go ahead.
Okay. This is a Hail Mary, members. It's a Hail Mary to take what Councilman Cachola did with sludge. And I supported him on it. I actually voted no to shipping the sludge, okay? Because he said there's new technology. And I said, well, the decision was made in 2003. Let's move forward. You're going to delay things and force sludge in my district.
What?
So with that said, we got shipping the sludge and Honolulu going on, okay? Maybe coming to Waianae's treatment plant. All because this council said, let's review new technologies around the world so we can save taxpayers' monies and we can do sludge right. That's all this does. It mirrors the same premise, the same precedents set by this council to say things have changed. Maglev is about half the price of steel wheel, and I really think that we owe it to Honolulu to put something on our landscape that can make sharp turns, go up and down the hills to UH Manoa, possibly go to Mililani, do spurs into the Waianae coast, all for the same price of this $9 billion rail, 30-year tax to go to the 34-mile segment. When the vote came up, do you want steel wheels on steel rail? When the vote came up, imagine if on the ballot it said, do you want Maglev? I'm sure we'd probably have the same results. If the vote said, do you want monorail? We'd probably still have the same results. The fact it said steel wheel and steel rail and nothing else trapped us. It backed us into a corner. The reason Maglev, I don't think, advanced is there was no one here pitching it and selling it. Nobody's going to make a buck off it because it's the right thing to do for the taxpayer. This rail is not about traffic relief. We all know that. That's the bottom line. This is not to trump or usurp the voter. This does not delay the rail. It does not kill the rail. It's going to save taxpayers billions of dollars and a lot of earaches, as you heard in testimony. A lot of earaches. And I'm trying to be as professional and calm as I can here. But I'll tell you, when I see this symposium in South Korea that could have given us five bidders, what did we get? Canadian company, Italian company, and a Japanese company for steel wheel. We could have had 5 bidders on Maglev. More competition, better bang for our buck, and a much 21st century technology. So the Americans build this. They've had it in San Diego for 20 years as a pilot. Federal government gives funds for this, and it was disqualified because it was proprietary. It is not proprietary. If it were proprietary, South Korea would be getting their technology from Japan. Germany would be getting their technology from Japan. China would be getting their technology from Japan. The United States would be getting their technology from Japan. That's not a truthful statement. That is a deception on the taxpayer that the only solution was steel wheel and steel rail. And I'm throwing a Hail Mary to you, council members. I'm hoping that we can heal this community instead of having a 53 to 47 split on this rail with the ballot on the last vote. Let's get an 80, 90, or 100% concurrence and everybody rally around this rail. Let's do rail right. We have an opportunity because we haven't poured the cement yet. We haven't undertaken this. We haven't really broken ground, to my understanding, where we're building this thing. So we have a window of opportunity to take a chance and have Maglev or monorail technology, whoosh, quiet, go through our community at a lesser price. It's worth the quality of life improvement, and most importantly, I'm a little bit...
Councilmember, I'm going to have to answer.
Yeah, I'm going to wrap up with this. To say that this resolution wastes taxpayers' monies is an affront to me, an affront to Council District 1, who, as you see, many people came here and testified. We have a better way to do this, Chair, members, we really do. And it won't be a waste of taxpayers' dollars. It will be a savings.
Thank you.
Hello.
Members, any further discussion? Councilmember Harvey Mono.
Now, I know that this vision has its critics. There's those who say high-speed rail is a fantasy. But its success around the world says otherwise. I know Americans love their cars. Nobody's talking about replacing the automobile and our highways as critical parts of our transportation system. We are upgrading those in the recovery package as well. But this is something that can be done, has been done, and can provide us enormous benefits. Now, there are those who argue that if an investment doesn't directly benefit the people of their district, then it shouldn't be made. Jim, you know some of those arguments. But if we followed that rationale, we'd have no infrastructure at all. There are those who say, well, this investment's too small. But this is just a first step. We know that this is going to be a long-term project, but us getting started now, us moving the process forward, getting people to imagine what's possible and putting resources behind it so that people can start seeing examples of this around the country.
We will soon make a brief stop at Geidai. The doors on the right side will open. The next station is Koenishi. Should you notice any suspicious object on the train, please refrain from touching it and notify a station attendant at once. We will soon make a brief stop at Koenishi. The doors on the right side will open. The next station is Aichi-Kyuhaku Kinen-koen. We will soon make a brief stop at Aichi-Kyuhaku Kinen-koen. The doors on the right side will open. 愛知県工事美術館にお越しのお客様は次でお降りください。The next station is Tojishi Ryokan Minami. The doors on the right side will open. 次は終点八草です。愛知環状鉄道線はお乗り換えです。愛知工業大学へお越しのお客様は次でお降りください。The next station is Yakuza. This is the last stop of this line. Passengers changing to the Aichi Loop line, please transfer at this station. まもなく終点八草。お出口は右側です。リニモをご利用くださいましてありがとうございました。お忘れ物のないようにご注意ください。We will arrive at the Yakuza terminal. The doors on the right side will open. Thank you for using the Linimo line.
And what rail was in 08 was they said steel on steel is going to be it. Like it, take it, or leave it. I concur with some that believe that Maglev, alternative technologies, the EVA Neighborhood Board, by the way, supported rubber tire and concrete and wanted emergency service, front door service looked at in this alternative analysis. So the EVA Beach Neighborhood Board did not even adopt or support steel on steel.
How did we go from, you're a realtor, how did we go from XYZ 90 million-ish in the 20-mile route to 3 times that amount? How would you justify that to the taxpayer in your expertise?
It does not make sense, except that someone is not doing their homework well, and I'm actually not surprised because based on my observation, government has a tendency to just lowball everything, and then once the project is trapped and once the taxpayers are trapped, there is no accountability of them going 1,000-fold because taxpayers are trapped.
Condemnation, according to the discussion on your agenda, were 3 times over budget. So the letter to the editor from Grabowskis, the CEO, so-called director of HART, has again misinformed the public and is duping the public. I'm offended as a council member that he would write a letter to the editor saying we're under budget when we just heard everyone right here today, you're 3 times over your budget. Something's amiss. So Chair Kobayashi, not only is it Amur Rail, PRP, Pacific Resource Partnership, Go Rail Go, and HART, they're deceiving the public by design. They're deceiving the public. So
You can't fool me.
The reason Maglev, I don't think, advanced is there was no one here pitching it and selling it. Nobody's going to make a buck off it because it's the right thing to do for the taxpayer. This rail is not about traffic relief. We all know that. That's the bottom line. This is not to trump or usurp the voter. This does not delay the rail. It does not kill the rail. It's going to save taxpayers billions of dollars and a lot of earaches, as you heard in testimony. A lot of earaches. And I'm trying to be as professional and calm as I can here. But I'll tell you, when I see this symposium in South Korea that could have given us five bidders, what did we get? Canadian company, Italian company, and a Japanese company for steel wheel. We could have had 5 bidders on Maglev. More competition, better bang for our buck, and a much 21st century technology. So the Americans build this. They've had it in San Diego for 20 years as a pilot. Federal government gives funds for this, and it was disqualified because it was proprietary. It is not proprietary. If it were proprietary, South Korea would be getting their technology from Japan. Germany would be getting their technology from Japan. China would be getting their technology from Japan. The United States would be getting their technology from Japan. That's not a truthful statement. That is a deception on the taxpayer that the only solution was steel wheel and steel rail. And I'm throwing a Hail Mary to you, council members. I'm hoping that we can heal this community instead of having a 53 to 47 split on this rail with the ballot on the last vote. Let's get an 80, 90, or 100% concurrence, and everybody rally around this rail. Let's do rail right.
Japan resumed high-speed tests on its experimental magnetic levitation train, or Maglev, on Thursday for the first time in 2 years, and after nearly doubling the length of the test tracks to 42.8 kilometers long. Floating on powerful superconducting magnets 8 centimeters above its track, the linear motor train rack tops speeds of up to 581 kilometers per hour. That would cut a 360-kilometer trip between Tokyo and Nagoya by 1 hour to about 40 minutes. Due to open in 2027 at a cost of 5.1 trillion yen, or $61.4 billion, the Maglev rail will be extended again to the western Japanese city of Osaka by 2045. Developer Central Japan Railway Company, known locally as JR Tokai, said the design of the train has been upgraded to enhance aerodynamics and cabin space from its previous version. The super high-speed train will take JR Tokai as long as 30 years to recoup the cost of constructing a line between Tokyo and Nagoya. The company, which already operates conventional high-speed rail services between the two cities, is pushing ahead with the Maglev project even as a shrinking population and competition from new discount airlines erodes demand for rail travel. Overseas, the company, as part of a Japanese consortium, is promoting the technology for a proposed route on the U.S. East Coast connecting Washington and Boston.
Joining us now is Jim Powell. He's inventor of the Maglev 2000. It is a train that goes really fast and doesn't touch the track.
No, it clears the track about that much.
Okay, now this is not sci-fi. These types of trains are in use around the world right now.
Yes, Gordon Danby and I invented them in 1966, and right after we published our papers, we had people come from Japan and Germany and all over the world, and they started their development programs, and which are now operating in a number of countries.
Okay, now, no offense to you at all, Jim, but I mean, it's 43 years later. Why are we suddenly talking about why magnetically levitated trains might be a good idea? Well, where have we been? Why is America so far behind the rail curve?
So it's being done. It's just not being done here. There's no reason why we can't do this. This is America. There's no reason why the future of travel should lie somewhere else, beyond our borders.
Well, Senator Moynihan tried to get a program started, and we helped him write the legislation. It passed the Senate for 1990 for a $750 million program. If it had passed the House, we now would have a network of these maglev trains all over America.
We'd be able to hop on a train in New York,
right?
Head to D.C. in what, 90 minutes?
It would be less than that, probably.
Less than that?
Yeah, probably about 45 minutes.
That's it?
That's it.
Instead, we either got to take the 3-hour Acela, which is constantly delayed,
right,
or wait in lines at the airport to get patted down. Right.
The Japanese have essentially built our design back that we proposed back in 1966, and it's been very successful. And they're going to build a Tokyo to Osaka line, 300 miles, takes 1 hour for the trip, carry 100,000 passengers a day.
Most drivers would never call a New York traffic jam inspiring. But as scientist Jim Powell sat in traffic on the way to see his girlfriend in Boston more than 50 years ago, he was struck with a thought that would change his life.
There must be a faster way to get to Boston.
While working at Long Island's Brookhaven lab in the 60s, Powell and partner Gordon Danby found that faster way to Boston. It's called Maglev. This amazing passenger service is quiet, and superconducting magnets power Maglev trains, allowing cars to glide above the tracks at speeds up to 300 miles an hour. Think of two simple kids' magnets like these. They repel one another, just like the magnetic fields on Maglev's tracks and cars. That allows the trains to literally fly on the ground.
So it's not like a conventional train with wheels. It's a brand new way of traveling.
A faster, cheaper, greener form of transportation being built in Asia and Europe, but not in the U.S. The reason? Building Maglev here on a large scale would cost billions. But after more than 5 decades of rejection, Powell and Danby's supporters are more skeptical about why Maglev has failed.
The railroads don't want to change. The airlines, special interests, have certainly kept a lid on this technology.
They believe Maglev could transform American transportation, with aging systems like New York subways converted using existing tracks and cars.
We see a world where there'll be less traffic on the roads.
Danby and Powell have written a book and are pursuing private money for Maglev. Like Don Quixote, they refuse to give up their seemingly impossible dream.
It will happen. It just may not happen when we're alive, but it'll happen.
This whole steel wheel on steel rail was a fixed fight from day one.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
And
yes.
at our expense.
Everybody knows that.
Do you want to? This is.
I think even the proponents know that.
There is an endeavor. This is American-made, American technology, American-owned, American entrepreneurship, utilizing the Maglev technology, by the way, which is in Japan. South Korea just had a symposium this past week. It's in Germany and China. There's actually more builders of Maglev than this steel wheel on steel rail, the 3 bidders. We've got Sumitomo, Bombardier, and Ansaldo.
Yeah.
So there's actually more in the business of magnetic levitation, but the city dismissed it, saying it's proprietary. You can only get one-stop shop with Japan. And that's just not truthful information. This proves it. This shows something that would be better for our environment, our landscape in Honolulu. If I can play.
Sure, go ahead.
Population grows, our cities continue to expand, devouring more and more landmass. Our solution has been to construct additional highways, but the results are no longer meeting our economic and environmental needs. Cities have begun to explore magnetic levitation as a realistic urban transportation option. A maglev vehicle can maneuver through buildings, above crowded city streets, and through public parks. General Atomics and its team members are developing a totally passive, permanent magnet large air gap system, which results in lighter vehicles, reduced energy consumption, and more streamlined, less costly guideway structures. A linear synchronous motor, or LSM, provides propulsion. It is housed in the guideway rather than in the vehicle. The system uses neodymium iron boron permanent magnets placed in a configuration called a Halbach array. This yields a very high lift-to-drag ratio and leads to an efficient levitation and propulsion system. General Atomics, the team leader, has a 50-year history in the development and manufacturing of cutting-edge products, such as the Predator family of UAVs. Other team member companies and institutions were chosen for expertise in their given fields. The General Atomics team has been developing and testing the maglev concept since 1992. A full-sized maglev chassis is being tested on a 400-foot test track at GA headquarters in San Diego, California. The team plans to construct a demonstration facility at California University of Pennsylvania, which will connect its stadium with student housing, parking, a convocation facility, and other areas. It will serve the dual purpose of demonstrating the maglev technology and fulfilling a transportation need. Already, the future of the urban maglev is taking shape, with major cities, national parks, and universities across America expressing interest in the system. A truly innovative type of urban mass transportation for the United States, made in the United States, is moving closer to realization.
I'm pretty sure I've seen that in the Batman movie.
Right.
Yeah, it's pretty high tech.
21st century technology, American made. Right.
So what's the problem? I mean, we do have rail transportation in the United States. It's slow.
Yes. Well, the problem is that why did Senator Moynihan's legislation not go all the way? It was killed in the House by the representative from Detroit.
Shocker.
That's not unusual.
No, I mean, we are a car-based nation, and here's the problem. People will write in and they'll say, I live in North Dakota, I don't want to pay any tax dollars for a high-speed rail, I'll never benefit. How do you counter that argument?
Well, what we're saying is that we have developed a new generation of maglev beyond what Japan has already built and what is operating in China. And the new generation carries highway trucks as well as...
it's not just people.
It has vehicles that carry highway trucks.
So you're going to sell this as more green.
And it also carries personal autos. Now, highway trucks is a big, big market, intercity highway trucks in the United States. People spend more than $300 billion a year on intercity trucks. They only spend $60 billion a year on air travel, first passenger travel. The payback time for the system that we're developing is about 5 years.
Oh.
So it can be privately financed. Doesn't have to have government subsidies.
We like to hear that these days.
Yes.
Jim, that's a here's the other piece of advice I have for you, because as the viewers know, I'm a big proponent of high-speed rail, having traveled around and seen how great it is. Paint your trains green, make commercials showing flowers and children's running through fields. Just, talk about the environmental aspects. It'll get through.
I think your advice is very good. Unfortunately, we tend to be too technically oriented and not.
You went to MIT. You need somebody dumb like me to try to help market it. Jim Powell, thank you very much. Good luck.
Good.
Appreciate it.
And Japan, the nation that unveiled the first high-speed rail system, is already at work building the next, a line that will connect Tokyo with Osaka at speeds of over 300 miles per hour. So it's being done. It's just not being done here. There's no reason why we can't do this.
In this small hangar outside New York City, two modern-day Wright brothers are quietly at work, building a machine that may seem as radical today as the airplane did a century ago. Gordon Danby and James Powell, retired scientists from Brookhaven National Laboratory, are finally creating what they have always dreamed of, a machine with no moving parts and no engine that can travel at fantastic speeds.
Interesting applications. Maglev potentially can go any speed. It's levitated and it could go thousands of miles an hour.
The crucial components to achieving that speed are these superconducting magnets, now being readied for testing. Danby and Powell need these tests to succeed if this vehicle is to become America's first magnetically levitated train. The key to Powell's idea was superconducting magnets. When a loop of superconducting material is cooled to a very low temperature, an induced electric current circulates endlessly, creating a powerful magnet. It can run for months on a single charge.
And another thing,
Powell knew he had the power to lift the train. He brought his idea to Danby, and together they conceived Maglev.
And then Gordon came up with the idea of inductive loops of aluminum in the guideway, and so we were off and running.
In 1969, Powell and Danby received the first patent for a levitated train using superconducting magnets.
Our test vehicle using superconducting.
The U.S. wasn't ready for Maglev, but another country was.
We realized that it had great potential. So did the Japanese, by the way. They immediately started coming and visiting us.
In 1996, the Japanese opened the Yamanashi test track at the foot of Mount Fuji, based on Danby and Powell's design.
And now,
transportation is fundamental to our society. Maglev is inevitable. It will happen.
This is something that can be done, has been done, and can provide us enormous benefits.
Chinese researchers at Southwest Jiaotong University in Chengdu have successfully tested a prototype megathermal superconducting maglev train. The super maglev, like current magnetic levitation trains, makes use of a strong electric current to power magnets, enabling the train to float above its rail. This avoids the track friction experienced by regular high-speed trains. But that's where the similarity ends. The world's fastest maglev train is limited by air resistance. It has reached a top speed of 431 kilometers per hour. A super maglev could break this speed barrier by operating in a vacuum tube with 10 times less than normal atmospheric pressure at sea level. Such a train could reach speeds as high as 3,000 kilometers per hour.
Tony Morris, and I'm President and CEO of American Maglev. We worked with Georgia Power, and they called it Project Copperfield because the vehicle levitated like David Copperfield might do. There are no emissions of any kind, so we have no carbon emissions, we have nothing that uses oil and grease, nothing to be maintained. Everything is all zero emissions, so it's good for the environment, and it's cheap to operate, and it's cheap to build. The trains have been studied at speeds up to 300 miles an hour. Now here, of course, we rarely get more than 15 or 20 miles an hour, and when people are standing and seated not paying attention, you have some very strict requirements to make sure people don't fall down. So normally the system will be moving relatively slowly, less than 50 miles an hour, but it has the capability, because there's no friction, to have very, very high speeds. It's good to see the opportunity that perhaps green high-tech jobs may come to Georgia, and we're working very hard to create that. Well, there are many opportunities here in the United States. We live in mega-regional areas where the areas have gotten very, very crowded and congested and polluted. So Florida, California, in the Northeast, you can see these sorts of technologies and systems being built in the very near future.
Right now there's 5 countries doing maglev, which is magnetic levitation. It's quiet. Urban maglev was not on the docket in the mix when the alternative analysis came about. Urban maglev, built by Americans, American technology. In this packet from the symposium in South Korea, you'll see there's federal monies. There'd be no delay, absolutely none. HART already has the authority to do maglev and monorail. Already has the authority. Federal dollars will still come in on time in September 2012. This doesn't delay anything. What this does is put on the footprint a smaller footprint, less of a blight, lesser in weight, less concrete usage, smaller stations, smaller pillars, less intrusion on the EV. It's endless. This maglev makes no noise. And the steel wheel on steel rail is going to plow through Waipahu next to 2 schools, Waipahu Intermediate, Waipahu High School. They don't have air conditioning. My concern is it's a stone's throw away. We're going to keep dumping dollars to mitigate noise with steel on steel. Just Google steel on steel. No municipality in the United States has built heavy rail in the last 30 years in our country for a reason. It's archaic, obsolete technology that belongs in the Smithsonian.
In favor of maglev because of the better system.
Councilman's talking about a vote in 2012 and a petition process to get it started. I believe that's a little late. I think the mayor and the council have to both get on board. The mayor maybe has to stop drinking the Kool-Aid that he's been fed from Department of Transportation Services and take a good hard look at this thing, and then the council, without the mayor and the council, we can't do anything. I've spent a lot of time at that council testifying and a lot of time in meetings and scoping meetings and so forth. And if you can't get their cooperation, nothing's going to happen. And I would bet that there's a very good chance that an anti-rail mayor could kill this project if he's elected in 2012.
And I think it's great that the youth are involved, because they're going to have to be paying for this long after we're gone. And I agree with what you say, born and raised here. I don't want the rail either, but I live in Makakilo, and I was in the traffic with the gentleman this morning, and there has to be something that we can do. Why, sir, Tom, why are they pushing this steel on steel? Is it because they're getting paid by all the people who are going to build it? Is that what the thing is? Is it that simple? And then this is Kayla.
We don't like to use the word corruption and
This is Yakusa, the last stop. Please change here for the Aichi Loop line. This train is out of service. まもなくドアが閉まります。ご注意ください。リニモのドアは発車時間になると閉まります。駆け込み乗車は危険です。まもなく電車が参ります。The train will soon arrive.